Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to our channel. So my last show commentary video kind of did pretty well. The Grownish one I'm talking about, if you're not familiar. And if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. Thank you for that. And also, here's some more. I asked you guys at the end of that video to tell me what shows you want me to talk about next. And to be honest, I only saw like one comment on this, but I kind of want to talk about it anyway, and that was Dear White People, because that also is an example of a show that takes place in college, but does it in like a different way than Grownish. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into exactly where they differ, what their similarities are, and then really get into Dear White People as just like a show and where they go right and where they go wrong. But before I do that, if you're new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video because that helps out a lot. I also have a Twitch that I stream to every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a Discord server where I hang out with everybody in this community. So both those things are linked down in the description below if you're interested. But let's talk about Dear White People. Now, if you're not too familiar with Dear White People, let me catch you up really quick. There's basically the main character who is Sam, and she at the start of the show has this radio show called Dear White People, where she basically, for lack of a better term, tries to educate the white population of her Ivy League university. Sometimes she's more successful than others. Other times she's just being shady and talking about some of the racist stuff that happens on their campus. And might I say, a lot of stuff goes down on their campus. The story opens up with like this one racist Halloween party that they have. And I know it's meant to represent colleges like currently, and I think that it does that pretty well with the amount of racial incidents that it has and like the type of people that go to the school and like the different opinions that people share. And like especially for colleges that are stereotyped to be like liberal places where people like have a bunch of different views but tend to skew a little bit more liberal. You'd be surprised. Well, actually, I don't know if you'd be surprised, but there is a lot of racist stuff that happens at college. And this show kind of calls that out, or at least addresses it, which is something that is a big change of pace from Grownish. And that's like the main point of distinction for me between Dear White People and Grownish. I feel like Grownish really takes on all of the relatable college struggles for like everybody. Grownish sort of does that in a more mature way and focuses more specifically on like the Black experience in college. Now, whether they do that well, up for debate, but they do get into it more, and it's more of a, I'd say like more mature college story than what Grownish is. Is that a hot take? I don't know. I feel like the two shows, like if they get into the same topic, Dear White People will get into it deeper. And I think they actually do. For example, both shows have a really big cast. Like they both have really big casts of characters. This is Dear White People's cast, this is Grownish's cast. As you can see, very melanated, very diverse cast, but each of the shows sort of delve into their characters differently. I know in my last video I talked about how there are a bunch of characters there, but not all of them have the same level of character development. Like, you know that each of them well, like you know each of the characters, but not each of them has had like their full time to shine yet. Whereas with Dear White People, you just like know the characters to a different level. Like every single character has like their own arc, and you get to like learn from them, and they like all grow as people, which allows the show to be even deeper and to have like deeper consequences, because like you feel like you know the characters more, you like know why they're doing what they're doing more, and it's less of like a gag, it's more of like a real person. And you can really see the difference when both shows try to tackle like the same issue. Quick trigger warning before we talk about it, but this next topic does have to do with SA. Here's a timestamp that you can click on if you want to skip over this part. But both shows try and tackle SA. Grownish does it in the span of an episode, while Dear White People has like a whole season dedicated around it. Let's start with Grownish. So Grownish, basically there's this new policy enacted to keep students safe. There was this instance where this one student, another student like hooked up, and there was like a bunch of rumors mixed around, and they thought that there was some like foul play, some not so great stuff happening, when in reality that wasn't true, and they implemented this policy just in case, and the characters discuss it for the full episode on like the pros and cons of having like such a policy. But Dear White People kind of took it to a different level. They actually chose a relationship between a professor and a student, and it just got a lot deeper because you got to see more of a realistic, a sad but like realistic view of like what happens in those scenarios. And basically it was like a nuance on a whole nother level, because on top of the atrocity that was the SA, there also was like the racial factor on top of it, because the professor was Black and the student that he had taken advantage of was a white woman. And if you don't know the historical implications of SA or worse allegations between Black men and white women. That's for another video. You can probably check out another channel for that. There's historical stuff behind that, which makes things a little bit more nuanced and puts it in a different context. So there's that, and everyone has their own opinions on it. There's people who believe the student, there's people who believe the professor, and you just sort of see that dialogue and you get to see actual people go at odds with each other because of their beliefs, and you get the reasoning behind why they think the way that they do. And I just feel like it's a more accurate representation of like what actually happens when things like that come up, as opposed to Grownish, where they kind of just like talk about it. And to me, that just really shows like the difference between the two shows and like where they kind of go with in respects to like displaying the college experience. I definitely say that going between the two as a black person, Dear White People is a lot more, I don't want to say realistic, because in some aspects it's just not. But again, it's a show. A lot of people were telling me in the last video, like, it's a show, get over it. But like, I get it, it's a show. But I'd say that as far as like the conflicts and like the serious stuff goes, that is more realistic. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is race. Now both these shows have a cast that is very much minority, I don't want to say minority focus. Well, I guess both main characters are minorities. It has a very strong minority representation in the cast. I think in the main cast of Dear White People, like, I think they're all black except for Sam's boyfriend. There's a handful of white people for like the main cast of black people. And in Grownish, there basically is like a mixed bag, but primarily I think most of the friend group is black. And this is really interesting because you're getting two completely different standpoints. Like, the best way I can describe Dear White People, if you haven't seen it and you've seen Grownish, just like imagine if like most of the cast were a bunch of Aarons or Aaron adjacents. Like, imagine like if most of the cast believed similar ways to what Aaron does. And that's how we're getting into this. The show is very racially focused and sort of focuses on highlighting the different aspects of being black in college, especially being black in like an Ivy League university. I can't really speak to being black in an Ivy League university because I am not there. But for just like the general experience of being black at a university, I feel like it does this exceptionally well in the form of its characters. So each of the main and supporting cast has a dominant like character archetype, which is seen in real life by like actual black people that go to university. And it was really interesting rewatching this because I saw this show way back when, but when I heard that the 4th season was coming out, I had to rewatch. It was really interesting seeing it now, being like a junior in college, seeing a bunch of different people. Like, you can like definitely pin names of people in real life to different characters. And it's really interesting that you can do that because it's just so accurate. Like, for example, the character Reggie. Reggie represents like the strong black man archetype where you have to be like super macho, on your guard, not really show your emotions. You're just like a man's man. Like, you're pretty low key, act like nothing really affects you, even though like subconsciously like you're one of the most sensitive people, but you can't let people know that. And as the show goes on, you get to see life just like keeps getting thrown at Reggie, and you really just want him to just like show some emotion, like process some of this trauma, because like a lot has happened to poor Reggie. Like, he had a whole character arc just trying to get past his PTSD from like police brutality, which yeah is also in this show, but like at the same time, like, deal with some of this trauma. Like, deal with, like, you don't have to be like so stone-faced all the time. Like, feel your emotions. And eventually, spoiler alert, he does. Then we move on to another character who's one of my favorites, and her name is Coco. And Coco, oh, Coco. Coco represents the archetype of black people that kind of represent like a form of like self-hating, wanting to like assimilate to like whiteness and like white culture in order to like have like a better life and be like more successful, and being less like that, if you know what I mean. She has a good character arc on that and explaining like why she is the way she is, why she chose to make that change. And you see her like actually grow, like going back and forth and back again. Like, at the beginning of the show, she's really set up to be like the mean girl character. Then you sort of like learn to like love her a little bit, and then like you hate her again for a second, and then you like her again. Just because like throughout the series, she's like learning to love herself and accept who she is, what she can be, what she can't be, and like she just represents that internal turmoil that is like great for like self-discovery. And I've seen so many people go through like similar things, and not necessarily in like a directly like bad light. Like, it's not seen like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's just more of like, I understand why you're that way, but you see all these alternatives that you could also be. And then you have a character like Troy, and I have mixed feelings about Troy. He started off the show for the longest time being like that one like black frat bro that wasn't in like the black frat. He's like, I'm a Kappa Alpha G and I'm here with the bros. Like, that kind of guy. He also happens to be like the dean's kid, so he also has like that whole like faux privilege. He like grows as a character, and you learn to like him a little bit more. He's still like kind of like douchey, but like you learn to like him a little bit more because you understand why he's like that. He gets better. He's like he gets better with time. But for the onset, he just really does not seem like that character. And then let's get into the main character. I've been saving this one for a bit because I have a lot of words. This is more of like a pro and a con. You have Sam. Sam is someone I would call perfectly flawed. She's great when she's great, and then when she's not, she's just kind of like annoying. Sam really struggles throughout the series, sort of being the middle ground between the black students and the white students at the school, while also at the same time being very opinionated and very vocal about how she feels about white people. And then also as like a white boyfriend. So it's really kind of confusing where she like lies with different things, and I don't even think to a certain extent that she really knows where she lies with certain things, just because sometimes she can like be a little contradictive with her actions, and even she acknowledges that sometimes. Like there are certain things that she wouldn't let slide for anyone else, but because her boyfriend does it, it's like okay. But the general thing with Sam is she's really trying to like see where she is, because at the start she's like very active, like black activism on campus, and then at a certain point it just becomes too much. Like people start hating on her and things get very bad for her, and then she wants to distance herself from that. And then she sort of starts hanging out more with her boyfriend, and then gets ridiculed for that, for like switching sides. And for a lot of the show it just seems like she's kind of like lost and trying to figure out who she is and where she fits in like the bigger picture. Like her boyfriend was the one that called the cops on Reggie, who then had to live through like almost like a year of PTSD from that experience. And she's just like, love you, baby. Which is the start of some of my main gripes with the show. A lot of what happens in the show, or specifically like the activism, seems kind of performative. Like it just seems like they just make things like too black and white, no pun intended. It just feels like there's like the predominant view of one group and the predominant view of another group, but like not really too much talked about like the in-between of people that are kind of just like or have like a completely different view that's also like valid. There ain't enough discussion going on, which I think that Grownish does a pretty good job of like talking about that middle ground. Like there's like a lot of obscurity. Like Grownish has like kind of like the opposite view. They never have like one side or another. It's like always middle ground. Then also, let's talk about the end of season 3. Or the entirety of season 3. They like bring out a cult. And I honestly don't know, because again, I don't go to an Ivy League school. They probably do have these secret societies, but out of left field, like it just brought out the secret society stuff. And I mean, like I get it, it like adds to the plot. They call it The Order, which is also what they call another show. I like that one. It's about like werewolves and vampires, but like it like brings this secret society stuff out of left field. And in season 4, they're going to go into it even more. It just feels like they kind of needed something else to really talk about, because the plot between like the black housing situation and the rest of the university thing, I guess, got too tense or got like tired. So they kind of like brought in that third force just for funsies. It really gave me like season 2 or season 3 of Riverdale vibes, where they like brought out like that random Dungeons and Dragons equivalent game. But like it just seemed like, okay, but like why? And I hope that they solve that more in season 4, like tying in why and why we should care. Like it's cool, they're like building it up, it's like being super mysterious and stuff, but also like why do I care, you know? As far as like a realism goes, like the actual college experience, if top tier realism was like a 10 and like 1 was like not realistic at all, like you might as well be like doing fairy tales, I'd say that like it's like a strong 7. I'd say it's like a 7, maybe 7.5 or an 8, because it's pretty realistic, but at the same time it is like a show, so of course it's not gonna be like really real, and things are gonna be like dramatized to make it more juicy. But I'd say like it's pretty accurate with some things that I've seen happen in real life, and the situations that people are also in are a lot more realistic than say things are with a certain other show that I also love, but just happen to not be as realistic. I have a lot more to say, and when season 4 drops, I will definitely be talking about this more. But for right now, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then let me know by leaving a like and subscribing. Also, don't forget to follow me on my other places like Twitch, Discord. I even make ASMR sometimes. And also don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications. Let me know down in the comments below about your thoughts about Dear White People and what shows you want me to talk about in the future. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've been Imurgency, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.